Hello and welcome back. This is episode 10 of my vlog series about creating the art for a 2D video game. And I hope you had an amazing Christmas this last week. We definitely did. It has not been my most productive week ever in terms of like art, but I've gotten a bunch of other stuff done. Like I got a lot of presents wrapped and I ate a lot of food. I made some food. And, and my son got this really cool, my little boy, he's 4, he's really into marbles, like more than anybody else I know. He loves marbles. And so we've built him, a number of marble runs, but I got him this new one, and it's like, I think the brand is Marblosity, I'll have to look it up, but it's like this roller coaster, but you make it out of these, it's made out of wood, so the kit comes with all these like laser cut little pieces of wood and you have to construct it over the course of like 5 days. So according to the instructions, you're supposed to do like phase 1, let it dry overnight, phase 2. So he's a little too young for the actual like building portion of that, so that means that I get to build it, but that's really been fun. So I've been working on that over the last couple of days. I've been getting this roller coaster made so you can put his marbles on it. They're like these little like silver ball bearings that you run through it. It should be super cool when it's done. But I'm like 2/3 of the way done with that, and so I've been doing that more than I've been doing any drawing, but I'm almost done with that, and now, since Christmas is over, it's kind of back to real life until New Year's, so that means another episode for you. So I'm actually going to show you today a quarry that I made. So if you watched, I don't know, maybe it was a couple of episodes ago, I did like a lumber mill and a lumber yard. I'm losing track now that I've got 10 of these under my belt. I'm losing track of when I did what. But I did an episode about the lumber yard and the lumber mill, and the lumber yard was like was basically the base of operations for your peasants to know where to harvest lumber. So within a certain distance around that lumber yard, they could harvest lumber. And so the quarry is a similar deal. So within a certain radius around the quarry, they can harvest stone. So I drew that a couple of weeks ago, and I gathered all the footage. So I'm going to show you the footage from that today. And actually, the quarry is not up and running just yet, so I won't be showing you any gameplay today. But I will show you the finished sprite sheet at the end, so you can just see what that looks like. And eventually, of course, once it's implemented into the game, I will show you how it looks when your character is actually interacting with it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and switch over to my screen, and I will show you what I've got. Okay, here we go. So I've got my Photoshop file open here, and as you can see, I've already got a bit of a light sketch in place as I'm starting this. I didn't film the process of actually sketching, but I've got my little king character right there to make sure I have everything more or less to scale, and I am now drawing a hole in the ground, basically. So when we decided that we needed some sort of base of operations for your peasants to know where to, harvest stone, basically, I had this one on the back burner for a while. It was on my to-do list for sprites that we needed, and I puzzled over it for quite a while because I wasn't exactly sure what to do for that function. Like, I thought, well, maybe I could do like a mine shaft, but I didn't exactly want like, it wasn't a mine exactly, and I was like looking at pictures on Google Images and just like scrolling through looking at mines and different mining operations. And it wasn't exactly what I wanted, because somewhere in the game there will be actual mines. At some point we're going to have mining where you can dig up gemstones and other ore and that sort of thing, and I will need something like that for those areas. I will need an actual mine shaft, I will need the caves and that sort of thing. But when you're just having your peasants like break rocks on your property, I needed something else, I felt like, to designate the area that they should be, working in. And so the solution I came to was basically to do a hole in the ground. You may remember, like, it may have been last episode, how I said I've gotten lazier as I've gotten older. This is a perfect example of that. I thought I could, at first I was thinking, well, maybe I could do like a camp or, some kind of a structure. But I felt like a structure or a building didn't exactly make sense. Like, it didn't... If I looked at a building, I wouldn't automatically think, oh, that's where my characters are supposed to be mining for ore. It didn't seem to make sense to me. But a hole in the ground, I feel like that's kind of self-explanatory, so that's what I ended up with. So this is a quarry instead. So instead I did this, this hole in the ground, and I also put a little mine cart there with just stone, and I just wanted it to look like it's somewhere where your peasants could be working. And later, I also added a little storage container. I don't think it's not on there yet. But later I also added just this chest where there's a bunch of just stone piled in there. And basically the idea behind that was just to give your peasants a logical place to dump, their stone as soon as they're done, mining it. As soon as they're done mining stone, they'll go and put it in that chest unless you designate them to put it somewhere else. And so that's where you'll go, to collect everything that they've harvested for you. And of course after that I ran into then another problem, because most of our structures have an intermediate or an in-progress version. So for example, the forge, when you decide you're going to build one, the first thing that's going to be in place, sort of marking the spot that forge is going to be, is just the foundation of the forge. And you have to, of course, beat on it with a hammer until you finish building it. And you may have seen that in some of our other videos. And the same thing goes for our lumber yard too. There's just like a basic structure there until you've finished building it that just kind of marks the spot that the finished structure is going to be. And so I was thinking we wanted something similar to that for the quarry, but how do you do an in-progress hole in the ground? Like, I wasn't really... I was kind of stumped. I wasn't really sure what to do. And, I remember just like laying awake in bed at night being like, these are the sort of things I think about when I lay in bed at night. Like, how do I do an in-progress hole in the ground? Do I just do like a smaller hole in the ground? Like, I don't know. That maybe have made more sense. But then my brother actually messaged me. He's like, what if you do just like a roped off area? And I'm like, okay, that's brilliant. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but it's so that's what I ended up doing. Is I just did sort of a patch of dirt to kind of designate like this is where your hole is going to be, and then just did a little roped off area. And so once this is implemented into the game, when you decide you're going to build a quarry, you will select the quarry, you will put it down, and the first thing that will be there, of course, is just this roped off area. And once you finish building it, and you finish filling that meter by, beating on your quarry with your hammer, which makes no sense, but, don't think about it too hard. But once you finish beating on it with your hammer, of course, then your finished hole in the ground will be there. If you hang out for a few more seconds, you will of course see me start to draw that in progress sprite, which I think works really well for our purposes here. And funny enough, from a purely like objective standpoint, when I'm looking at, watching myself draw this hole in the ground, I think, wow, what a boring thing to draw. Like, I'm sure anybody watching this must be thinking, oh, that, drawing dirt must be super boring. Isn't there something else you'd like to be doing with your time and talents? But actually, I actually really like drawing rocks. I like drawing them because you really can't get them wrong. Like, rocks are, they're rocks. Pretty much, if it doesn't look like something else, it must be a rock, right? Like, if it's not a potato, if it's not a dog, it must just be a rock. And so I really actually enjoy drawing rocks and dirt because, like I said, you can't get them wrong. And I like adding the texture. For a lot of this project, I use a lot of flat colors. But every now and then, especially on more naturalistic kind of structures, like of course here, and some on the trees and on brick, I'll add just a bit of a texture to the surface. I use, I think it's one of the Impressionist brushes. It used to be a Kyle brush. But now I think it just comes standard with Photoshop, although I wish it had come standard with Photoshop before I bought it, but I actually paid money for that one, so anyway. I suppose he deserves it anyway because his brushes are amazing. But anyway, so I just use that, one of those Impressionist brushes just to do a little bit of texture over the top, and it doesn't look, realistic necessarily, but it just adds a little more visual interest, I feel like. And anywhere I can have an excuse to use that texture brush, like on rocks and dirt, I will absolutely use it because I just love the way it, I love the way it blends colors and just really adds a lot, adds a bit of pop, to any piece, even something as simple as like what I'm doing here. I'm really looking forward to getting this quarry up and running because at this point, when I'm testing out our game, I feel like your peasants can do most things for you at this point. They can cut down trees for you, they can plow for you, they can plant for you, they can water for you, they can harvest for you, and they can make stuff for you. They can make you bars of ore, or they can make you a new axe, or they can make you a watering can. They can do a lot of stuff, but the one thing they can't do yet is break rocks. And so I spend a lot of my time right now breaking rocks to get them the ore they need to make other things. So your peasants in this game, they don't just do everything with their bare hands, because like I've said before, I am not a monster. I do not make my peasants chop down trees with their bare hands. So they have to have tools for the job. And in order for them to have tools, you have to make tools. And in order to make tools, you have to have ore. And in order to have ore, you've got to break rocks. And so at the moment, I spend a lot of my time breaking rocks so that my peasants can stay busy. It's kind of, you know, now that I think about it, it's kind of like the first line of business almost. Like, if you want anything else, you've got to start by breaking rocks and collecting ore and collecting supplies that way. But I tell you what, like, I loved it once my peasants could start chopping down trees for me. I swear, I'm never going to chop down another tree. It is way more fun to watch them do it. And they don't get tired like I do. Well, not like me, but like my, you know, my little avatar. I don't get tired chopping down trees. Like I said, that would be sad. But my little avatar does, and she faints, and I'm kind of emotionally attached to her at this point, so I don't like it when she faints. I feel bad for her, like I've overworked her. So instead, I'm just going to overwork the peasants instead, because, well, that kind of makes me sound like a sociopath. Yes, that does. Anyway, oh, I did not get much sleep last night. My baby is teething. Please forgive me. Which actually just made me think of a tangent I could go on, and trying to decide if I should, and yeah, I'm going here. Alright, this is happening. So, after, it was like Black Friday during that, you know, week of Thanksgiving, like the Sims games, hopefully everybody knows what I'm talking about. Those went on sale. It was super cheap, like Sims 4 was like $10, something like that. So, and I haven't played Sims since like Sims 2, like when I was a kid. Like, it's funny, I'm making a video game, but contrary to all appearances, I actually don't have very much time to play games. I'm making one instead of actually playing them. But, you know, that nostalgia factor kicked in, and I decided that I absolutely needed to download Sims 4 and relive my days from my youth. And so I downloaded it, and I haven't played it very much, because like I said, I'm a little bit busy these days, you know, being an adult. So anyway, I've been playing it, and I am such a sociopath. Like, in my real life, I feel like I try to be a good, moral, upstanding citizen, but when I play Sims, boy, I cannot tell you how many people I have drowned in my pool, or just, like, watched burn to death. Like, yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. I should... that probably says something about me, my, like, deep psyche, or that I've got just a morbid sense of humor. Or it could just be, like, my deep fears manifesting themselves. Like, I'm actually quite hydrophobic, having grown up in, you know, landlocked Montana, so there you go, maybe that's just it. I drown Sims in my pool because I am afraid of water. We're gonna go with that. Okay, so now that I have just revealed this rather disturbing secret about myself, I am sure that you will all just be rushing back next week for more of the same. So I appreciate you hanging out with me for this episode, and I will be back again next week for more random sleep-deprived ramblings. See you then!